Saturn's largest moon, Titan, was the first celestial body humanity harvested for resources. The only piece of Titan left intact was the fragment housing the operations mining colony. This colony became an invaluable asset to the human race, serving as a critical research outpost as well as a way station for deep space mining operations. The added traffic quickly grew the settlement into a bustling metropolis supporting a population of over 1 million. Nicknamed the Sprawl, Titan Station was split into 2 sectors. The public sector held the majority of the populace and was equipped with skyscrapers, schools, malls, and Unitologist churches. The government sector was where the EarthGov and CEC facilities resided. It was also the site of Project Telomere. Project Telomere was a research program led by Hans Tideman that specialized in studying marker-related phenomena. Among the project's cast of human test subjects, Nolan Strauss and Isaac Clarke were the most valuable. The data implanted into their brains from prior marker exposure was uniquely pure. Terrifying devices called Noonlight diagnostic machines were used to extract said data. In between sessions with the mechanical nightmare, patients were administered memory suppressants to remain docile. The team's findings resulted in the construction of the Site-12 marker and the unanimous belief that their work held significant importance to mankind. This scientific endeavor lasted for 3 years. Shortly after its completion, the Site-12 marker began invading the minds of those in its vicinity and birthed its first necromorphs. The government sector safely contained these cosmic horrors up until the events of Dead Space Mobile. Dead Space Mobile follows Carrie Norton, a recent Unitologist convert who had been selected by the church for a special mission. Given the codename Vandal, she was ordered by Tyler Radikov to destroy select power boxes in the government sector. Despite not receiving an answer as to why she was destroying these boxes, Vandal completed her task nonetheless. The act disabled communications and cut the power off in certain areas of the Sprawl, unleashing the Necromorphs. Realizing the sin she committed and seeking redemption, Vandal received instruction from Tideman to close the quarantine seals on crossover tube A. This tube was one of 3 that provided transportation between sectors. While navigating to her objective, Vandal was once again contacted by Tyler. Claiming that he was similarly unaware of Unitology's dark side, Tyler regained Vandal's trust and assisted in her operation. He directed her across the station until he ultimately tricked her into furthering the church's plans a second time. Instead of closing the crossover tube doors, Tyler's instructions to Vandal locked them in the open position. Titan Station was officially f***ed. Despite his outrage at the church's pawn, Tideman tasked Vandal with another important mission: to reach the reactor core and prevent a meltdown. Arriving at her destination, Vandal discovered that a giant necromorph known as the Boss was responsible for overheating the core. During the duo's battle, the Boss occasionally summoned other necromorphs to attack Vandal, suggesting the creature may have been a hive mind variant. In the end, Vandal conquered the beast and prevented the meltdown, but unfortunately suffered a fatal wound in the process. In her final moments, Vandal was met with radio silence as she attempted to contact her allies. Dead Space Ignition is another game that precedes the events of 2. The playable protagonist, Franco Dalil, is the same man who releases Isaac from the medical center's asylum. After Isaac gained his freedom and witnessed an infector pierce Franco's skull, he retreated from a horde of necromorphs to once again enter the world of survival horror.
Oh my God! Oh gosh! I think it'll make a person become insane.
This game is an atrocity.
It's revolting. It's violent. It's everything you love in a game. And your mom's gonna hate it.
Why would they even make something like this?
Dead Space 2, rated M for mature.
Praise Altman, my friends, because today we are covering Dead Space 2. I'll be exclusively focusing on the enemies introduced in this title. So if you're curious to learn about these necromorphs, go check out my video on the first game. Anyways, subscribe if you haven't, drop a like, and let's get right into it. The Puker's constant expulsion of caustic fluid has dramatically altered its appearance. The majority of skin and muscle tissue that covered the torso has melted away, revealing the creature's organs. The host's eyes have disappeared and the jaw has seemingly fused into the neck, granting the Puker its signature blank stare. Its original legs have become entwined and a third leg has been created from a clump of intestines, nerves, and muscles. Pukers are skilled combatants. Their claws are capable of tearing flesh, their projectile vomit melts skin on contact, and they possess a unique defense mechanism where corrosive fluid spurts from severed appendages. Long-range targets are even vulnerable to the creature's toxic bile that rusts armor and hinders the wearer's movement. In the multiplayer mode of this game, the Puker was one of 4 playable Necromorphs you could battle against a team of engineers with. The other Necromorphs you could command were a Spitter, a Lurker, or a member of the pack. Much to my dismay, I was unable to capture my own footage of this mode as the servers were shut down in December 2023. All that remains of this mode are the memories it created and archived footage online. The pack refers to a group of Necromorphs that hunt in overwhelming numbers. They maintain cohesion via auditory cues and rush their victims in a storm of violence from all sides. This method of attack was born of necessity as members are unusually fragile when compared to other Necromorphs. A single round from a pulse rifle will take these guys out. The extent of the mutation invested in each member of the pack is noticeably tame. Aside from their newly formed claws, reinforced musculature, and pale skin, these Necromorphs still largely resemble the children they were created from. Crawlers are the second explosive Necromorph introduced to Dead Space. These infants' torsos are filled with the usual explosive yellow substance and have twisted backward alongside the head. The legs of these little bastards have fused together into an odd appendage with a visible left foot. This forces the creature to pull itself along surfaces in a similar manner to a caterpillar. Up next, we have the tripod. Tripods are 3-legged necromorphs composed of multiple human bodies. They attack by swinging around their massive appendages, pouncing onto their opponent, or flailing around their bladed tongue. Strangely, of all the tripods Isaac encounters, only one of them had a female as its primary host. It was lurking inside a Unitologist church before attempting to kill the engineer. Stalkers are clever hunters that rely on flanking and group tactics. Together they migrate between hiding places, aiming to lure their prey into exposed areas. When a stalker finally strikes, it does so by utilizing its most distinguished feature, a massive and extremely durable 3-pronged head. It'll emit a high-pitched screech, tuck its limbs into the body, then bash into its prey with a thick cap of bony protrusions. It's not clear as to what stalkers evolved from, although developer Steve hinted that they may be a combination of several animals found aboard the Sprawl. Cysts are growths of the corruption that excrete an organic bomb when approached. For those unfamiliar, the corruption is the mass of necrotic tissue that appears alongside a necromorph outbreak. Nests are found exclusively in 0G conditions and are formed from a female host and at least one other body. The lower segments of repurposed flesh serve to anchor the creature to a surface while the top supports 3 bulbous arms. These arms are the only vulnerable part of the monster. By thrashing its body around, nests release a number of homing projectiles that detonate on impact. The Tormentor was a massive necromorph with a slender body and elongated limbs. Similar to brutes, the many corpses that formed this beast turned to a misshapen mass of bone fragments and necrotic tissue. Isaac's encounter with the Tormentor was incredibly brief after ditching it in a struggle with an EarthGov gunship. It's theorized that Ubermorphs are an early stage of a hive mind's life cycle. The creature's head, chest, and antenna-like appendages bear great resemblance to the Nexus organism found on Aegis 7. Ubermorphs may even have a similar commanding influence over Necromorphs, although the evidence is inconclusive. Killing an Ubermorph is incredibly difficult as it can repair its wounds and regenerate lost appendages rapidly. The final enemy found in Dead Space 2 is Nicole Brennan's apparition. Both markers found in this game and the first use Nicole as Isaac's guide toward convergence. On Aegis 7 in the first game, Marker 3A manipulated Isaac into placing it onto a signal amplifying pedestal. The pedestal allowed 3A to inject its blueprints and replication codes into Isaac's mind before he escaped the planet's destruction. Isolated in space, Nicole's ghost was the only one to keep Isaac company. By the time EarthGov retrieved Isaac's shuttle, his mind had gone fully mad. Project Telomere adopted the lost engineer and inadvertently subdued Nicole's presence through their memory suppressants. Once the drugs wore off and the Site-12 marker was able to properly utilize Nicole, it was a lot less chill haunting Isaac than 3A was. Nicole often appeared with a bright light emitting from her face to torment or even harm Isaac. The only time she ever adopts a friendly demeanor is in later chapters of the game when she led Isaac to the base of the marker. The marker summoned Isaac, intending to absorb his body to complete convergence. It instead was destroyed when Isaac severed his connection with the markers by battling Nicole inside his mind. And with that, we come to the end of yet another enemy lore video. There was a lot less to cover this time around, so I figured I'd take some time to share my thoughts on Dead Space 2. In short, I really liked it. This statement may anger some people, but I actually don't mind when horror games lean into their more actiony elements. And yes, if you were curious, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite RE.
What the fuck are you doing here, Leon?
You said everyone into the briefing room, so here I am.
I didn't mean you moron. Not you, Leon, everyone else.
Jokes aside, I had a lot of fun with this game's combat. There are a ton of great weapons to use, and the varied battle arenas were refreshing after spending so many hours in the Ishimura. My absolute favorite enemies to fight were the Pack. I got a serious kick seeing their bodies fly from the force of Isaac's graviton accelerator. Oh, and the suit customization was sweet too. Gearing up with the latest and greatest fit was never not satisfying. Narratively speaking, I think the first Dead Space is better than the second. The atmosphere aboard the Ishimura and the detailed lore behind the enemies make it a much more memorable experience. This is not to say I didn't like Dead Space 2's story. It was really clever to drop the player in Isaac's shoes just as his memory suppressants were wearing off. It connects the two games really well and continues to make Isaac feel like an extension of the player. It was also really cool to see more of humanity too. What are your guys' thoughts on DS2? Let me know in the comments, especially if you played the multiplayer mode. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.